Hello and welcome to the Gallant Few Rangers podcast. My name's Colin McDuff and I'm delighted to be your host tonight as we run through Rangers' very own Greek tragedy we as we succumbed 3-1 to Olympiacos in a glorified training game. Obviously, if we studied them 4-0, I'd be crowning Rangers soon to be champions of the world, but that's the nature of being a fickle football fan. Here to dissect the game with me and go through a bit of a deep dive into what we seen last night. First of all, joining for the continent, Davie Thompson. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, fine. Thanks, Colin. I bet you've either been Greek god or Colossus in the whole weekend practicing, and unfortunately you had to go with the Greek tragedy. No, I'm fine, and looking forward to the show. We've actually been laughing quite a lot before we came in here, so maybe that's a good point.
There's been a pun a minute backstage, but in actual fact, like last night in the media gantry, me and Davy Potter before the game, it was Davy Potter's idea if we get beaten in a Greek tragedy, and we spent about 10 minutes writing down different names. I won't spoil them in case we scrud a Greek team in Europe this season, but we'll keep them in the back burner. Also joining us, the pride of Paisley, Andrew Stewart. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Getting past the result. Looking forward to the weekend. If anything, if we're taking anything from what Michael said in the press, Saturday will be as close to the season kind of squad and efforts and tactics as we'll probably get. So good to put last night in the rear view mirror and look forward to the trip to Germany at the weekend.
And last and by no means least, adding a wee bit of common sense into proceedings, Shona, how are you?
Good evening. How's everyone tonight? Yeah, looking forward to obviously dissecting what happened last night. Wasn't too pleased, but I suppose the Hibs game today, well, that's made me feel a little bit better. Seeing them having a bit of a meltdown. So yeah, I'm sure we've got lots to talk about tonight, but feeling a little bit better when I saw that. So let's move on and see what we've got to see and talk about tonight.
History's told me to wait until Rangers get their qualifiers out of the way before we start laughing at other Scottish clubs. So as enjoyable as that is, I'm not making it too vocal at the moment. And of course, hello to everybody listening, whether you're listening live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, or if you're listening after the fact on your way to work on the Friday morning. Just a quick thank you to everybody. Obviously, last night, myself and Davie Paul were back in the media gantry. I had access to the new press room, the new press access. I'll be starting to share photos and videos of that over the next couple of days. But just a massive thank everybody who supports the pod, whether you subscribe or you're a member for £1 a month, you're the guys that make it happen. So thanks very much allowing us to, attend the games, give you live analysis from, I say analysis, it's, live shit talking from Ibrox, we'll call it, but the sentiment stays the same. So, Davey, we'll go into the game. Rangers starting with what I thought would have been close to the lineup we'll see in Kilmarnock in 10 days' time, but now I'm thinking a wee bit differently. So we started with McCrory in goals, Tavernier, Suter, Davies, Borna were the defence, Durrell, Rashton and Cantwell in the midfield three, and Seema and Lammers playing just behind Cyril Dessers. We're going to go through like section by section because there's a few different talking points and a few different issues that we probably want to chat through all across the pitch. But talk to me about the game in general and what you've seen. And I know you wanted to talk through the tactics. I know we kind of look too much into pre-season. We do try different things, but what did you take for the tactical setup last night?
Yeah, well, what I seen with Beale's tactics was that we are playing really, really narrow, and everybody seems to Dowell comes inside, Barisic comes inside, Tavernier comes inside, and also Cantwell comes inside, and we are so narrow, and every ball out to the wing is a danger, just because there's nobody near. The first goal came from that. Cantwell was I mean, virtually everybody. If you watch it, I slowed it down and done pause, stop, watch, and at one time there was 6, 7 Rangers players just watching the ball, and it was absolutely nobody in movement. And then the ball get through the player out in the left wing for them. He tried to put the ball through. It hit Tavernier. He got the ball back, and absolutely nobody was marking the number 20. And he could just move in, and yeah, it just went from there to eventually the goal. But that just seems it all comes from watching the ball, which was a mistake last week or last year as well, and just being so narrow. How many times was the ball put behind Barisic? And that was a way. I remember teams doing it last year. They picked out Barisic and tried to put the ball in there all the time. So I don't see any improvement on our tactics from last year, and that worries me.
Andy, what do you think the overarching plan was? Because we don't usually we do see Beale usually go with a wee bit with usually the fullbacks, but was the plan to have Lammers and Sima in playing interlinking with Dessers? Was that I know whatever the plan was didn't work, but what do you think we were trying to set up to do?
It's been quite confusing trying to piece together what the actual game plan has been for the last couple of games. I've been saying it's we tactically slow the game down to a halt essentially, and then when the other team essentially falls asleep, we kick into gear and pop some passes about and try and get them behind. I can understand that when you try to play narrow, you then look for the width, drag players in, make it kind of compact, and then find the space. And I know with Tav and Barisic, unfortunately, we'll get to him, I'm sure, later on. The plan is to get them up the park almost as your kind of wingers. But anytime the ball's going to Barisic or Tav, they're immediately looking up to find a winger almost. And with the narrow formation, you don't have wingers essentially. You've got players who are central and they tend to drift. But when we rotate, because our forward line essentially seems to rotate, Sima sits as a striker, then he'll go wide, and Dessers will go through the middle, or Lammers will sit wide, and he'll come through the middle. It was similar to last season where it seemed like Morelos would be getting the ball in the wing, and you'd be thinking, great, cross it in to Morelos, and you go, well, Morelos has got the ball, so he can't cross it to himself. I think with our kind of rotation between the kind of the midfield units and the attacking three, it kind of limits the out ball from Barisic or Tav or Redvan, whoever it's going to be. And I think that's causing the famous Barisic take 3 strides, pause, turn, repeat. It's something that I'm sure we'll fix with time. I'm going to back the manager and say these things will, when we get into kind of rhythm, we find a rhythm, we get up to full kind of tilt, then we'll be fine. I think you have to kind of remember, especially for that front three, was all 3 of them are new. Sima, Dessers, Lammers, or as Tom Miller's calling them as Sammers, which was pissing me off in the live stream last night. I think once these kind of guys kind of get those games under their belt together, learning each other's strengths, weaknesses, doing the kind of learning each other's best traits and stuff, you'll see them clicking a wee bit better. It would be lovely to say that we'd scud every team in pre-season, but we've done that a few. Well, not scudding teams in pre-season, but we've looked comfortable in pre-season and then fallen apart in the real season. We've seen that last year, looking good against Tottenham and West Ham, and then collapsing in the league. So if you're giving me a tougher loss to take on the chin during pre-season, and then having a good start to the season and really kicking it high gear from day one, then I'll take that every day of the week.
Absolutely, and again, just to echo the point, we can't get too high or too low in pre-season games as much as we want to, because we want to fill that void of competitive football, and we do get ahead of ourselves either way. But Shona, let's let's start for the back, and that back line. I might be contradicting myself here when I say that let's not get too high or too low, but I thought particularly the left-hand side of the defence looked very, very shaky. I actually thought Suter had a decent enough game, but the Olympiacos, I think one of their best players was the right back, and he gave Barisic a torrid time. Davie mentioned it earlier about the basics. Barisic and Davis not doing the basics too well. They had a bit of a tough time in it. Michael Beale was asked about that at the post-match press conference, and he said we'll be fine. He's not worried about the left-hand side of the defence. What's your thoughts on the options we've got there right now?
Well, obviously we've got Borna, we've got Ridvan, and then we've obviously got Dijon Sterling that can play at left back. So look, we still got to get to see what he's like. I think he might be a bit of a surprise package because from what I saw last night, the left backs were so exposed. Both of them, not just Borna, even Ridvan was at fault for one of the goals. So look, I think it's now a position that we might need to look at. I thought centre back might have been a position that we might have had to spend money on, but look, if we can get some money for Borna, I think I would take it. We're just same old faces, same mistakes happening, getting very, very much exposed. And do you know what? See other teams now, they're going to look at that left-hand side of our pitch, and that's going to be their target for us. And Borna and Ridvan are now just going to be a target for that left-hand side as well as Davis. So until they improve, and I know it is pre-season, we've got to give these guys a chance, but I mean, all you're asking for was a wee bit of effort, and as you said, it was simple things that they weren't even being able to do, like just put the head of the ball out. So look, I think the left back position now, I'm going to have to look at it a wee bit more because I think Dijon Sterling's going to have to get a wee chance in there because for me, Borna was very much exposed yesterday. And we can't have that going into this season. The same old mistakes from last year. And if we've got the same back four, more or less, then what's that going to create for this year? More goals conceded.
Davie, what's your thoughts on the centre half position then? I think we've seen Johnny Feco come in. I do still quite like him, but I don't think he's ready to step in yet. Leon Balogun is noted that it was well documented that he's there for cover. Connor Golson returns to training next Thursday. Leon King on Monday. So it really is John Souttar, Ben Davis, or Leon Balogun as your options. And Ben Davis again, this isn't a knee jerk for me. It's not just based on last night. It's based on what I've seen last season as well. It doesn't quite fill me with confidence. What's your thoughts on the centre half position?
Well, the centre, see when you're defending starts at the front, at the centre forward. And it's easy to blame the centre halves because they're the last line. But our problem aren't just centre halves. Our problem are players in the middle of the park standing watching instead of closing down players. If you look at what I would call this game was Napoli light because it was the exact same as Napoli. They closed us down. They didn't give us any room. And what we do, we stand and watch when the balls out on the left or out on the right. The players in the middle are standing watching, and they're not closing down a player, not getting near them. And then the ball comes to the player near them, who's about 5 or 6 yards away. And then they've got to try and close them down. And I'm talking about your Cantwell, I'm talking about your Lammers, the new players coming in. They just were far too late in closing down players. And it meant that there was always a player there's free, and they could just walk through the defence because that's the way it was. So it's very easy to blame the centre half. Yes, I think we need centre halves, better centre halves in, but I find it really hard to just blame the centre halves for what's happening in the park because it's not just the centre halves. It's the way we're playing football. We know Barisic has had his best days for us, and he is still quite potent when he's going forward and crossing the ball. But defending's not his. That young boy, the number 23, I think it was, he walked past him as if he wasn't there a good few times. And as I said, I watched Henk the other night, and they've got a boy out in the wing called Paintsel, I think his name was. Guy's super fast. And he's really, really tricky. Barisic is going to have a nightmare with him. And I hope I'm wrong there. From what I've seen the other night, I think he's going to have and even Ridvan is going to have trouble with him. So that's the problem we've got to sort out. But centre halves, I would quite like to see us bringing in another one. I mean, let's face it, Goldson isn't the best defender either in the world. He's probably better than the rest that are there, but Goldson's into mistakes as well. So, yeah, we really need a really good centre half. The young boy, no, sorry, he's not ready. He was sort of a dodgy at the third goal as well. And plus the fact was at Newcastle, I think he was dodgy at one goal. So I don't think he's there yet. And I think we'll need to bring in a centre half. I don't know how good Anzo is or Trusty. Everybody seems to say Trusty's a good player. I don't know. I haven't seen him.
For me, I think we having Golson back, if we can maybe move Ben Davies on, we'll get a bit of money for Ben Davies and bring in somebody to upgrade him. We do need a left-sided centre back. Them along with Suter, Ballard and Leon King. I think we've got enough cover there, but it's just right now we're two of our first 4 picks are injured for the start of the season. Andy, we've kind of touched on defending from the front, and I think it leads me on to my next point, and I think we spoke about this through the chat last night as well. Kieran Durrell, and by the way, I'm not writing him off like some people are. I think he will be a good player. I don't think he was suited to covering the left-hand side. Michael Beale does like to set up his midfield to cover the full-backs. I don't think he had a greatest showing of that last night. He was quite wasteful in possession. He struggled to get the ball going, and he struggled to cover Borna Barisic as well. What was your thoughts in the midfield in terms of defensively? Do they need to take a fair share of the blame? Is this just a wee bit of getting used to a new system?
I'll go back to something that David Thomas says. You defend from the front is something we just want to do, the kind of press. I think if we're trying to win the ball back, it comes from your striker, your winger, putting that primary pressure onto the ball carrier and hoping that he puts pressure on to kick out a play, a loose pass that then the midfielder can mop up or wins the physical battle and takes the ball off him that way. I think with the kind of heavy legs, as Beale's said, the double sessions, whatever you want to call it during the week, you're kind of negating that front three press because of that tiredness. I think Morelos is a good example of you're unfit, you don't want to run that extra yard to try and put that pressure on. And I think that puts that that effort onto the midfield three to then be the press. And then that then makes your defensive line the secondary picker up of the ball, to excuse the kind of lame term there, to collect a loose pass or the ball after the physical challenge. I think because of that tiredness, things were a bit more disjointed. Players maybe not in the right positions to intercept passes, to be on the shoulder of the Olympiacos players to maybe stop the primary ball carrier from picking out a pass, maybe thinking not the best pass there, he's got a man on him, whereas if we're a wee bit slower and not getting to him, he's open, I can play that pass. And then if you can get by the first line, then you're caving in, you're collapsing back to your own goal, and then you know what we're like in our own 18-yard box. We've seen it at Parkhead last season, Ben Davies try to clear a ball and he's in the 18-yard box is a hit or miss, and usually last season I thought it hit his hand at Parkhead. It's tough, but yeah, the back four was shaky. I don't think any of them looked like they were confident in each other. Maybe I think the three of them could maybe look at John Suter and think he can get me through this game, but I think that puts a lot of effort, that puts a lot of pressure onto John Suter to carry that back four, and that's a lot to ask of a guy who last season was playing as a left-sided centre half with Connor Goldson at his natural right back, his right centre half position. I think we do need to look for another centre half. It looks like Trusty's being the one that we're kind of looking at now. The kind of Panzo talks kind of died down. I've not heard much about any kind of progress in talks with to bring Panzo to Ibrox. Whereas I read today something like we want to start at 2 million. But for that to happen, I think we need some outgoings first, because it really does look like we're throwing a lot of money out and not getting any back in at the minute.
Shona, just moving back into the midfield then, so obviously Kieran Dowell, I think, still settling in. I've seen Nico Raston and Todd Cantwell, and I was quite excited to see them on the starting lineup. Again, I think they did suffer from the sluggishness. I would say I think Todd Cantwell gave you what you'd expect him to give you. Effort, really diving into getting something going. He actually won the penalty. Nico Raston, he nearly got goal of the season with that 30-odd yard volley. A beautiful strike, well saved by the keeper. I don't think they were as terrible, but I do want to ask you about the midfield in general. I find they two are bang on starters for this season. I think it is just that number 8 where Kieran Dowell played is the spot up for grabs, because I don't think, while it was a poor display all in all last night, I don't think Rashton and Campbell are carrying too much of the blame. Yes, they could have done better, as everybody could, but I'm not really flying them under the bus for it.
Yeah, it was very disjointed at times, wasn't it? And we just didn't move the ball quick enough. And I felt as if, I didn't think Raskin and Cantwell actually had their best games, to be honest. And I think this is going to be up for debate, because obviously we're now playing Lammers in the number 10 role. And I don't know about you, but I thought Cantwell played that role quite well last year, and now he's gone back into midfield. And it seems like when he's in that midfield position, he just doesn't really suit him as much as what he is when he goes forward and he's picking up those passes and moving the ball quick. And I think that's what we're missing in midfield. We're missing a ball carrier, somebody that can carry the ball in midfield. And I think obviously Cifuentes, hopefully when he comes in, I think he's definitely going to bring that. But I don't know about you guys. I don't know if Beale was trying to go with a system where yesterday he was going to take away a defensive midfielder and not have the two holding defensive midfielders that we usually do for against a European side, and go very much attacking. And it was just very much disjointed. People kind of didn't really know what to do with the ball, didn't know who to pass to. I felt as if Cantwell was pressing at the wrong time, and he was using a lot of energy up by doing that. So, and it just didn't work well for Dowell. So I think that position where Cantwell, where's he going to fit in? I think is going to be quite vital when it comes to your European games, because for me yesterday there was just a massive gap between the defensive midfield and the guys up front. There was nobody really in the middle to be able to pick up that ball, twist and turn and make something with it. We were just kind of relying on maybe Sucha making that defensive run, or even Raskin. And I feel at times Raskin was quite poor yesterday on the ball. But look, I think it's something we're going to have to look at. I think Cifuentes will be the guy that brings that kind of box-to-box kind of midfielder in. And that's exactly what we need. We need ball carriers in that midfield instead of more kind of all the same kind of type of player that we've got in the number 10 role. That's the one thing for me. You've got Dowell, you've got Cantwell, you've got Lammers. They all kind of play the similar kind of position. And then you've got Tom Lawrence coming back, and then you've got Hadji. He seems quite overloaded in the same sort of kind of position. So whether Hadji will work in midfield, that is still to be known. I can't see where, no offence, but I can't see with the likes of Lammers, Lammers, Cantwell, and Dowell. I can't see where Hadji kind of fits in between them. I think those guys are definitely ahead of Hadji. So, look, I think when it comes to Europe, I think we're going to have to go with two holding midfielders. I think that kind of proved last night that's the case. I think we just had far too many attacking, two similar players playing yesterday up front, and it just didn't work for us.
I think with Yanis Hadji, and he touched in the press conference last night, what he does have on his side is he can play out wide, he can play number 10, and now he's playing a bit deeper as well. So I think he will benefit with being a bit more versatile. But you're right in what you're saying. It's Todd Cantwell probably fits into that mould as well, but Cantwell's too good a player to be a utility player. We need to get the best out of him, I think. And I don't know if it's maybe we seem to see Matt and Lammers play the kind of inverted wingers, if you like, or the two number 10s. It would be interesting to see maybe Lammers and Cantwell play that with maybe somebody a bit more industrious behind them in the midfield three. And Davie, this brings me on to my next point then, because I've made no made no secret of my favourite ever Rangers player, Ronald de Boer. So seeing a Dutchman wearing number 14 who can control the ball with the right, with the left, he can turn either way, he can pirouette, he can get a shot away. I was on the floor seeing him in the first half last night, nearly get his goal. He was a shining light for me. I know the attack in general probably needed a wee bit more cohesion, but I think Sam Lammers was the man of the match. He's got really good ball control. I'm much more comfortable, or becoming much more comfortable with this signing now that I know he's not out and out number 9. That was the big concern, that people were looking at his goal record, but now that we can see him as a bit more of a midfielder, I'm starting to see why we've brought him in.
Yeah, well, Lammers, he's a good player. For me, wasn't man of the match. For me, Souters was man of the match. I thought Souters was absolutely brilliant. But I would certainly give Lammers a 7, a good 7. I don't think he deserves an 8, but because a lot of times I watched the game back today, and a lot of times defending isn't his best quality. So no, I think no, Lammers is good. I've no problem with him at the moment. And Dessers was obviously he's not fit yet. So I would imagine if Danilo comes in, that I would imagine Danilo will be fit. So I would be thinking about him for start to the game until Dessers gets fit. It's going to be wondering where can you have Dessers and Danilo on the park at the same time. We're going to go into that discussion again. I really think we need we haven't got him there, and I don't think we were going to spend money in it anymore now. But I really think we need a wide player. I think we need a good Ryan Kent. I think we need a type of player like that. And funny enough, to mention Ryan Kent, he seemingly he's talk of Turkey now because he was absolutely brilliant at the weekend. So. Yeah, I think that's where I think we're just missing wide. It's easy trying to ram your way through the middle, but we can't keep doing that. We just can't keep doing that. It's not the way to go, and we get into trouble ourselves because the other team just leave players out wide, and we're struggling to cover them. I just think the tactics are totally wrong at the moment.
And as more players came on throughout the game, we started to see the game open up a wee bit more. Also, we're not going to go through all the goals. I think it's fairly we can put all the Olympiacos goals under the bracket of Rangers not doing the basics. A wee bit of bad luck, I suppose, an element of it for the first goal, but Rangers need to be doing the basics more. But Rangers did start to come in a wee bit more in the second half when we started changing things about, and we did see a wee change in shape with Sakala and Matondo playing up front, like playing one number 10 with two strikers, trying to pin the strikers back. And Davie's mentioned there, do we see Danilo and Dessers up front together? Assuming Danilo will join. How are you feeling about the starting position? I think it's clear Dessers hasn't played a lot of football. He's not spent a lot of time with. You mentioned this at the start of the pod, but in terms of the options we've got, I don't think Michael Beale plays for way wingers, so I don't know if that's. I get that it's definitely an area we don't have strength in, out and out wingers quality there. But if we're not going to play with wingers, how are you feeling with these options that we've got?
So going back to something I said at the start, it's hard to kind of label what we actually do as a team. What is our style of play? What is our modus operandi? Is that our MO? It's hard.
You're just showing off there with the words.
I was as close to Greek as I could get. It's honestly, I sat at the Newcastle game and I was trying to because he'd been saying all of last season. You'll see a proper Rangers under Michael Beale from pre-season on. You'll see how I want to implement how my team will work. And I'm trying to take him at that word and see what we've seen that's different, what we've seen that's new. Well, I'll give him that last season it was like a very obvious kind of three up front, like at the midfield. Yeah, we've seen it all the way from Gerrard onwards. But this season I couldn't tell you. So there you go. There is a change. The only issue is I don't know if the players know where they're supposed to be at the time, because it was a case of there's Cantwell on the ball and there's Lammers coming short, and he's giving it to Lammers. Cantwell stayed short, and then Raskin's come short, and then Dessa's come short, and all of a sudden we're all in the centre circle and there's space everywhere apart from the middle. Wings are open, but nobody seems to be taking the hint. Everybody wants to come short for the ball. I'm hoping that with the Hoffenheim game we're going to see more of a clearer identity that we can follow and piece together, because I like to think I'm decent with the kind of tactical stuff, but honestly, our style of play was hard to follow for most of this pre-season so far.
So, Shona, just on these potential options coming in, then Michael Beale last night, he was asked about transfers coming in, and he says pretty much don't believe everything that you read in the papers. The fee quoted for certain players and the wages quoted for certain players are nowhere near what they need to be. But he says, be patient and you should expect some good news start of next week, Monday or Tuesday. And I know the two Davies called that out in the news pod this week as well. I'll be plug for the news there, folks, if you want to go and subscribe for £1 a month. But how are you feeling about Danilo coming in then, and Cifuentes obviously signed a pre-contract. It was just the final details, the fee between us and LAFC. A happy bear.
Yeah, well, I think the fee's around about £1 million, isn't it? So that takes our transfer budget up to about £15 million. So look, he's been back, the board's been back. But anyway, look, I was speaking to, or listening to a podcast from the LAFC one where they were talking about Cifuentes, and they basically said, look, for this season so far, he's had 12 appearances, he's had 8 starts, and he's the most progressive passes than any of his teammates with 84. He's had 2 assists and he's had 20 key passes, and he's only second to Carlos Vela. He's had 47 shot creations, which is only second to Vela in the league. He's the second most creative LFC player, and he's critical at carrying the ball, and his rating is 3.57 per goal contribution. So it just basically tells you that's exactly what we've been missing. We've been missing a box-to-box midfielder that can obviously help create goals as well at the same time. So look, I'm really looking forward to getting Cifuentes in. I think he is a bit of the missing piece. I think the guys that we've got in, Lundstrom, Raskin and Jack at the moment, far too many similar players. So they played exactly the same position. So look, I'm really looking forward to getting Cifuentes. As for Danilo, look, this is massive money, isn't it, really, for Danilo, even though I know Beale's came out and said about the transfer not being as big as what people are saying. But if you think about it, that's Dessers, Lammers and Danilo now for around about £14.5 million, £14 million. So for me, look, this is where Beale's going to get judged. He's going to get judged on these 3 players. These are the 3 big signings. So for me, all those 3 players have to start every game. And I don't know how he's going to fit that in, like Andrew said, the tactics. Is he going to go with 2 up front? Because he kind of played with that yesterday with Sima and Dessers, and it kind of really didn't work, does it? We really need the width out the width. Whether he plays with those inverted wingers, I'm not too sure. But look, I think he's got to start all 3 of them. I don't think you can have a £6 or £5 million player sitting on your bench. So look, it's completely new dynamics. Look, I haven't been this excited in a long time. So like we'll just see. It's a total freshness, these signings. But I think it's very exciting that our front line will be Sima, Dessers, Lammers and Danilo. Look, that's just goals. So it's up now to these players when they come in. They've got to hit the ground running, because this is what Beale's going to be judged on, is these 3 big transfer signings for me. So look, it's up to them. Otherwise, the criticism will come. It's not like you're going to get your Dowles where you got a free, and he's not. Obviously, if it doesn't work out for him, we're not going to be losing anything on him. Do you know that way? So these guys have got to hit the ground running. So look, as I said, it's pre-season, but it's going to find out, guys. Where do you guys fit these 3 guys in? Because if Beale doesn't play with 2 up front, you're not going to have £5 million guys sitting on the bench, are we?
No, but at the same time, a wee bit of healthy competition will never go amiss as well. But I do think you're right. These players are being signed to play, and I think that's what we definitely needed. We needed to, anybody we brought in had to add value to the first 11 in terms of quality. Davie, I think one of those players is Jack Butland. I think he's the undisputed number one, but it was interesting to see Robbie McCrory played the first half last night, and then John McLaughlin played the second half. I'll ask your thoughts on both of these keepers. I think I'm looking forward to the impending John McLaughlin rant. But probably, what is the future for both these keepers? Like, do you see either being here at the end of August?
Well, I think Beale said in his interview that he wanted, that had already dropped hints that players might not get the game time that they wanted. And I think John McLaughlin, he sort of hinted that he would rather they go. And I think John McLaughlin is one. And after his performance last night, then I'm afraid I don't want to see him in a Rangers shirt again. That's for sure. I was going to say a blue shirt, but obviously he never plays in a blue shirt. But no, I just think it took him so long to get to his knees yesterday. I know the number 7, I think it was, that scored. I know he had to jump over McLaughlin because he was lying on the floor, but the number 7 had to run to the ball to the post to get it. Then the Feko managed to get his foot to it before he crossed the line, and McLaughlin was still on the ground. There was plenty of time for him at least to get onto his toes, that he could dive forward for that ball, and he could have, but he just sort of waited for the ball to come to him. And the guy that scored the goal actually came from the 6-yard line. He was much further away than McLaughlin was. So no, sorry, that was that's just for me. Yeah, no, I don't want McLaughlin near a Rangers jersey again. But no, we need to Butland. Yeah, I think he'll be the number one, and McCrory's got the choice. What do you do? Be number 2 or leave? Then we'll need to. Similarly, there's a boy in the B team with a sort of Polish name. I've thought, if I've not got it by me, the name, but he seems to be quite good.
I think he's just went out on loan to Civil Service Rollers. Is that Panskis? Starts with a P, but he's just went out on loan.
Yeah. No.
And we do have Kieran Wright there as well, probably taking up the Andy Firth role, I would have thought. Andy, Robbie McCrory, I'm kind of, my heart's still in two places with this. For the player, he is old enough, he's good enough to go and be playing first team football. For a Rangers point of view, I do want him to be the number 2 and I want him to get game time. Where do you see this one? How do you see this one playing out?
I'm afraid I've seen this story play out before. With a keeper by the name of Liam Kelly. It's unfortunate that he's out to develop. It's a Rangers thing to develop decent keepers. It's just a shame that we seem to have a really solid keeper with Jack Butland coming in. I think Robbie has the right to say, well, I thought the long-term plan was that I was going to step in once McGregor moved on, retired. I think he is at the time of his career where he needs to get first-team football. He needs to go and make a name for himself. I said Liam Kelly, he was stuck behind, I think, Fodringham at the time. Went down south, QPR became their number 1 keeper, and then came back up to Motherwell, where on his day can be one of the better keepers in the league. When he's off his day, you get a Tavernier free kick. I think a move away can develop him into, a keeper that can be in contention for Scotland. For him personally, I know he's a Rangers man, but he needs to look at himself. He just needs to look back at his family. Ross was here, highly rated, the same way that Robbie's been highly rated, but he kicked on at Aberdeen. He's seen it play out with his own brother, so I thought, well, it seemed like he was going to go. I think I'd love to keep him as a number 2, because especially with the amount of games I hope we're playing this season, with qualifications going out the right way and sorts, that you can afford to maybe give Butland a rest for some games, make sure he's still going to be on that peak fitness for the big game. Or and even as I said, I want the best player who's training the hardest to be the number one. So I'd hope he's still very much in Beale's plans, and I hope Rangers are still much in McCrory's plans. You just need to see if those two meet in the middle, and if not, then are we going to be stuck with John McLaughlin, unfortunately?
Shona, Michael Beale did say that the European squad will be announced for the qualifying games. Obviously, we're playing at home to either Servette or Genk on the 9th of August, with the return leg being the 15th of August, the Tuesday afterwards. And that will give an indication of the game time that some players are going to get or not get, more importantly. And he did say that we've had 3 or 4 inquiries in for players other than Scott Wright recently. Do you foresee any players in particular being in that category who'll be left out of the European squad?
Well, I think it's going to be very interesting, like Andrew said, about the goalkeeping situation as to who gets that number 2 position, because for the Scottish quota as well, isn't it? We've obviously only got, I think there's only 17 positions up for grabs. So for the European qualifier, so look, it's going to be difficult for Beale to pick these players as they've just come in. So it's, as I said, we've only got about a week or so to go now to these qualifiers, haven't we? Hasn't it? So is it the second? Halfway? Was it 7th or 8th of August that we've got these qualifiers? So I think that will give you a good stead as to who's staying and who's going. And look, I don't even think Roof might not even be in that European squad, to be honest. It'll be difficult to leave him out. I think it will really be difficult. But with 17 players that you've only got to choose from, and you've got to have so many Scottish players in there. So and I think the 17 plus the Scottish guys, isn't it, on top of that? So you're talking, you're going to have King in there. You're going to have at least McCrory or McLaughlin. You've got Ryan Jack. You've got Suter, don't you, as well? So I think the likes of Scott Wright, I think his position is like it looks like he's going to go off to Turkey, doesn't it? I think there's still negotiations happening there. As far as I'm concerned about the Sakala deal is that I've heard that he not back Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you guys have heard that. So
Yep.
if that's true that he's not back, sorry.
Aye, I've seen that. Gutted I was ready to drive him there for that, the money being offered.
Yeah, so that was £4 million that we could have got. I think the negotiations between Leeds and Glen Kamara for around about £5 million, which obviously I think is an absolute steal if we can get £5 million for that. So I think it's a case of now, look, if we look at the European squad and McCrory is our number 2, what does that mean? That means obviously John McLaughlin's leaving, but does that mean then if any bids come in for McCrory, does that mean we're going to be left with basically Jack Butland? Because then it becomes a stage where we're going to have to start looking for a new goalkeeper. So, because I can't really see Kieran Wright being your number 2. So I think like all these things are going to have to come to fruition in the next couple of weeks. And we really need to start getting a lot of these guys off the wage bill, don't we, as well? So the ones like Glen Kamara, Wright, possibly Hadji is another one, Borna as well. So, and even if the likes of somebody comes in for Ben Davis, as I said, I've heard about the trusty links as well over the last couple of days. I think it was about £2 million bid, and I think we're looking between about £5 and £7 million. So look, I think it's a case of now, look, we've got the squad in that we've got. If there is any other kind of upgrades or recruitment that he's done, I think we need to start getting rid of the guys. First, and then see what money that we've got spare, because I think we're going to get around about £2 million for Calvin Bassey too. But like you said, Colin, I think it's now a case of seeing what the squad is for the European night, and I think you'll get a clear idea then, like some Matondo as well. Will these guys have a future with Rangers? Because I've heard there's been a bid not back for Matondo as well, and he wants to fight for his place. Now, if that is true, I don't know what the kind of money they were offering, but like I would have got rid of Matondo. So I don't know. We just need to wait and see, I think, Colin. But I think next week when Bill announces that squad, we'll get more of an idea as to who's staying and who's going.
Colin, surely it's a crazy rule you have to name a team before the transfer window shuts. Surely you can bring in players and play them in Europe that come in the end of the transfer window, or is that useful?
No,
surely that's not true.
You named
for the qualifiers.
Just for the qualifiers. So if we go further, we can bring in players that come in the transfer window. Okay.
Aye.
Yeah.
Yep.
Aye, Davie, I would be shite myself as well if we were if we were running with that squad. But I think moving ahead to Saturday, Davie, Rangers are over your neck of the woods. They might pop in the Thompson household for a wee cup of tea. They're playing Hoffenheim. What changes do you expect to see in the Rangers lineup, if any, in Saturday?
Well, I expect the team to be virtually the team that's going to come out against Kilmarnock. I would expect that we're near now, and Beale said it himself. He said we're not going to be playing with 22 players again. We're going to be looking at the real start of the season now. So he will be playing the team that's going to start. So I think we'll get a good idea on Saturday what the team's going to be. Personally, I hope Mr. Lundstrom misses the aeroplane.
I thought I was getting through the pod without talking about that.
I wasn't going to let you do that. After last night's performance, I wasn't going to let you get away.
For the listeners who didn't see it, as soon as I seen Lindstrom come on, he touched the ball 3 times. The first 3 touches, he gave the ball away, and my heart sank out of my arse knowing that Davie was going to wipe the floor with me tonight.
Yeah, well, it was his first 3 touches were away to the opponents, and the 4th touch was a slide tackle that nearly took the. I mean, I think that would have been a red card in a normal friendly game because his studs were right up in the boy's ankle. So, but I'm so shocked. But anyway, I think I'm just surprised. I mean, when you read the follow and all the rest of the websites, then everybody's sort of now realising what he's like, that he's never played. I mean, I was a sort of a lone voice in the wild at the beginning, right at the start, but now everybody seems to be the other way. I've turned the other way about and see what I seen ages ago. But no, I think we'll get round, and I just hope we're not going to start with Lundstrom and Ryan Jack. You were talking about 2 men at the back, two defensive midfielders. Well, surely to God, we're not going to go back to Ryan Jack and Lundstrom, because that'll be absolutely. I mean, nothing will have changed. All that have changed is the name of the names on a sheet. If we go with the 2 at the back as midfielders, and I'll tell you now that I would personally, I would have Rice in before I would even think of Lundstrom. To be honest with you,
I think, but let's be honest, it'll be Rashing and one of the other. It's not going to be very often we see Jack and Lundstrom together. It'll be Rashing and somebody else in the midfield going on form and going on the manager's plans. But you know, Bailey Rice, he's done himself no harm with his recent appearances. Andy, Yilmaz or Barisic, I'm going to put you in a spot here.
I'd say maybe a couple of months ago, last season, I was continuing to hold on to Borna as not being as bad as everyone thinks, but last night was unexcusable. There's making mistakes, and then there's making schoolboy errors. I mean, some of them you can get away with. I mean, if it's we only concede 1 goal, say we only concede 1 goal, and it's off of a Borna Barisic, he deflects it into his own net. Shit happens. You know, you get some of the ball, you don't get enough of the ball, and it goes in. But you're not seeing anything different from him at all. He looked. The main thing I said when he played the week before, it looked like he was someone that had been training away from the squad. He looked that off it. He didn't look like he'd played with any of the players around him. He looked really like the weakest link in that back 4, and there was some weak links in it last night, that's for sure. I understand, obviously, with the way that we have seen Tav and Barisic, the wing backs, being exploited because they're not getting that kind of cover from the centre mids. It's a shame. You obviously every player, if it's going to be Tav or Sterling at right back or Yilmaz or Barisic, teams are doing that. They're going the ball in between if they're going the ball in between the centre half and the wide back, and it's getting them exposed every time, and it looks like it's Barisic's fault for not being with the man. But when he's got two to pick from, you're guessing, and you don't want to be guessing as a defender. You want to be solid of who you're going to, who's your man. And that's excusable because that's just a fundamental issue that he's not getting the support that he should be getting. That's not his fault, but it's the basic mistakes he's making, which you can't point to somebody else and say you should have been helping me, because it's solely his job to do just the basic stuff, and he's struggling with it. Don't get me wrong, I was quick to point out last night that are we going to see the same protection for Yilmaz that he'd got, in my opinion, for sometimes he'd made those similar mistakes. Like I say that's a Barisic mistake he made that led to the third one. Just wanting too much time on the ball when he get pickpocketed off the Olympiacos player. I think we need to really understand that when they're on the ball, sometimes they're making basic mistakes. Off the ball, it's more of a fundamental thing of they're not getting support of who's their man. That's the difference between some of the mistakes. When they're on the ball, it's on them, and it's that's their job to get the ball cleared or move it on to your teammate. When they're off the ball and they're tracking back, then you need to start asking questions of who's coming with me, who's my secondary cover. So at the heat of the moment, with the way that Barisic has been, it's quick to just point out it's the same old shit because we've seen it before. But I think we'll continue to see the same things with Yilmaz. So I think we just need to be prepared for it.
Shona, final word on you for Saturday then. Any other changes that you would be waiting for the Rangers team to make and how we shape up?
Well, I definitely think we'll go back to two holding midfielders. I think against this game, I think obviously the last couple of games has kind of shown us that we can't be playing with that many attackers up front. It just looks too disjointed at the moment. Look, I know we've brought in 9 signings and they're not going to gel automatically. It is going to take time for these players to gel, but I mean, some of the defensive errors that we're continuing to make, that needs to get shaken up right away at the weekend. So I expect Ridvan to start at the weekend. I think the more game time you give this boy, the better he's going to get. I do think, though, that if we do play the likes of opposition like Hoffenheim in Europe, look, Borna would be key to kind of when we get those kind of moments where if we're playing against better opposition, when it comes to set pieces in corners, they were going to be vital for us because I don't think we're going to get that many opportunities against. I'm talking maybe if you get a Real Madrid or a Man United or a Chelsea or something like that, then I think Borna would be key for that. But after the last night's performance, I don't know, honestly, it was like, as Andrew said, it was just basic errors. So look, I think it's going to take time for these players to gel, but I would like to see a little bit more energy, a little bit more pressing on the ball. I think at times we were kind of ran over in midfield. I think our ball discipline at times and the control of it was really, really poor yesterday. So I want to see us at least being able to string at least 12 passes together and being able to see what the front line can do, because I feel as if the last couple of games we've not really been able to get to see an opportunity of what these guys can do. So I want to see a bit more where a bit more ruthless, a bit more attacking, taking risks at times up front, see what these guys can do with the ball, because at the moment we're just far too narrow and these guys are getting in each other's way. So like I want us to go back out to the width and see what we can plan from there on Saturday. So like I'd imagine that there will be a few changes. I imagine that Butland will coming back in goals. I hope Ridvan would start with maybe alongside maybe Sutter, and it probably will be Davis, wouldn't it? Maybe Balogun. I would quite like to see maybe Balogun in there for a wee bit of a change, so and see what he's got to over, because I think he's not really had much game time, has he? So, but I think, like you said, Colin, I think it'll be a toss up between Jack and Lundstrom for that other midfield position if Cifuentes doesn't come in there before and Ridvan beside them. So not Ridvan, it'll be Raskin in beside them, and then I think like your front three is going to be a very, very tough one to make, isn't it? Because for me, I quite like Cantwell in that number 10 position. But I think if you're spending that kind of money on Lammers and Dessers and maybe Danilo coming in, look, I think Lammers has got to be your number 10 at the moment. I think he's been the outstanding player from pre-season for me. The way he can use both his feet is unbelievable. I thought maybe he'd be better on his right foot, maybe better on his left, but no, that boy can absolutely play, and I think he's one to watch this year. So It's going to be very difficult for Beale this weekend, but we have to win. We need to show the fans. That was the disappointment yesterday, was that these fans are paying money to come and watch that friendly yesterday, and it was piss poor. It really was piss poor for a friendly. So, I'm expecting a big performance on Saturday, and if we don't get it, we're going to be sitting here on Sunday night asking the same questions probably, and it might be pre-season, but if this was the fourth game of the season, fourth game in the season, and we're still talking about these sort of mistakes or whatever with the defence, we're going to have massive problems this year. So, I want to see a solid performance on Saturday. I want to see a good defensive display as well, and see what we can do up front.
And hopefully by that point on Sunday night, we are talking about a comfortable Rangers victory, and we have the live stream sorted. Just before we do round up and say goodbye, apologies to everybody who usually tunes into the 8:30 live stream, and you're getting your video a wee bit later tonight. We've got a slight ongoing issue with YouTube, and hopefully it's sorted by the weekend. But I think we've definitely dissected that game of death, and I do feel better airing my concerns, and Davie wasn't too harsh on me with the lonesome chat. But all that's left to do is thank the listeners, and thanks to my co-hosts. I'm going to press you for a farewell and a prediction. It's just to have these back here, how we round off the pod. Starting with Davie T. Thanks for coming on, mate. What's your prediction for Saturday?
Yeah, well, I'll give it first, but I've got. It wouldn't be me if I wasn't going to add a bit to it. I think Shona made a great point. I think Lammers and Cantwell, I think that's something Beale's got to sort out. The Barisic, the goal that went over Barisic's head, he looked once where the player was after the player was already moving. He had no idea where that player was before he moved. That was a second point I wanted to bring up. And the third point, I've now talked myself out of it because I've forgotten what I was going to say. But that's 2 points that I think really needs sorted out. What I think is, well, they beat Feyenoord 4-2, so they're no idiots. And I really hope that we're going to play better. If we play the way we played yesterday, then we'll be chasing shadows, because that's what we done yesterday. We chased shadows. So hopefully we'll play better. Hopefully Beale gets sorted out. I'll be honest with you, I would rather go with Sima on the right wing and Sakala on the left wing, and then fill in between there, because I really think we're far too narrow. I'll go for. I think we'll get beat. I think we'll get beat 2-0.
Fucking hell, man. Jesus. In all my years of Rangers podcasting, I've never had a prediction that we're getting beat before. I suppose if you're going to predict a defeat, it may as well come in a friendly. But always a pleasure having you on nonetheless, Davie. Thanks very much for coming on, Andy. Give me a bit more of an upbeat prediction and a farewell to the listeners.
Yep, so listeners, yes, apologies, it's not live. I'm sure we'll be working tirelessly to get your usual live stream content back up and running as soon as possible. For the game at the weekend, I think at the Pre-Zero Arena, it will be 3-0 for the Gels. You can't get much more upbeat than that without looking like a lunatic, especially if Lundstrom gets anything on the other pitch. We need to see how it goes. As Beale said, it'll be closest to what we're going to see come the season start. So I'm looking for a strong squad. I'm looking for strong performances from everyone in the park. I'm looking for guys that really want to stake a claim to that being, I'm in here. If you want by me, you're going to need to take me out of this place. So yeah, I want strong individual performances and even better team performance and some more goals, because you kind of beat a nice wee goal for the Gels. So yeah, really kind of looking forward to that game. Really can't wait.
Me too. It's good to have the football back, mate. Last and by no means least, Shona, thanks very much for coming on as always. What's your predictions for Saturday?
Thanks very much, guys. I really enjoyed it tonight. Obviously dissecting the game, last night. So I'm expecting us to win 3-2. I think it's going to be goals galore. And I'm looking forward to a really positive performance, much better than what we had yesterday. And yeah, and that'll kind of make a good stead for us going into the Killer game. And it's also just to give you a wee heads up, guys, that the Dyer is at Mumboody or Mumbood. We've got a 15% sell-on clause on him as well. So it's about 700 grand that we're getting for that. So look, if we can get a few guys off the books now, you never know, there might be another one incoming later in the transfer window. But yeah, I am looking forward to watching us on Saturday, and I'm hoping that we've got a much better performance than we had last night.
And here's to that. I'm going to finish us off with a resounding 3-0 victory to Rangers. Dessers will get his goal. The goal I predicted that it would come last night, I got that one wrong, but I feel it in my heart that he's going to open the scoring in Germany, and maybe Campbell will get us another dodgy penalty. But until then, I'll be back with you tomorrow morning for the news, and we'll hopefully be back with you live on Sunday. Thanks very much for listening, folks. Take care.